Galatians chapter 5, verse 18. But if you are led by the Spirit, you are not under the law. Now the textual syntax here in the Greek shows that this verse is what's called a first-class conditional sentence. Now what that means is that it's assumed to be true from the author's perspective. Now, Paul had no doubt about it, in other words, and he likely knew that the Galatian believers didn't either. If you are led by the Spirit, you are not under the law. An interesting analogy might be that there are two roads to where you want to go. If you walk by the Spirit, it's a road that technically can take you there, but no one's actually been able to do it except Jesus. And everybody knows this. The other road is by grace through faith. This being led by the Spirit, as I mentioned earlier, is not a license to sin, and it's not a new cage built. It's not to be a new cage to build for yourself. It's a living, dynamic relationship with the one true God, whom loves and cares for us, and cares about every aspect of our lives. It's a walk in a world we are no longer part of, where Jesus grabbed death by the neck and strangled it, totally defeating it. It's a walk led by the Spirit as the sons of the Most High. Now, from Paul's perspective, again, this being what I called earlier the first-class conditional sentence, all of this is assumed to be true, and this is what you can expect when you are led by the Spirit and not under the law. Chris?
Yeah, this is the thing that's really hard for legalism to understand, that if you're led by the Spirit, that you're not under the law. You can kind of be trusted. And even when you fall, you detest your falling instead of loving the falling. And it's used to help you grow when you do fall. And you grow even stronger in your resistance to sin in the future. So being led of the Spirit, you're sort of just, I guess, trusted is probably not the best way to put it. But that's again how I'm just seeing it, I guess, in this one. A good quote from Matthew Henry is, "If it be our care to act under the guidance and power of the blessed Spirit, though we may not be freed from the stirrings and oppositions of the corrupt nature which remain in us, it shall not have dominion over us. Believers are engaged in a conflict in which they earnestly desire that grace may obtain full and speedy victory. And those who desire thus to give themselves up to be led by the Holy Spirit are not under the law as the covenant of works, nor exposed to its awful curse. Their hatred of sin and desires after holiness show that they have a part in the salvation of the gospel." Another quote from a guy named West, I guess. It's spelled really weird.
W-O-O-S-T?
No, W-U-E-S-T. And I stole this quote from a commentary of Guzik, so I didn't really read the commentary. It says, the inner influence is far more effective than the outer influence. The mistake that it is made so often that the Mosaic law is substituted for the restraint of the Holy Spirit, and with disastrous results. I like this part. He says, "A policeman on the street corner is a far more efficient deterrent of law breaking than any number of city ordinances placarded for public notice." What?
Man, that first part there was so good. Like, you can be trusted, sort of in a sense. It was great. Galatians chapter 5, verse 19. "Now the works of the flesh are evident: sexual immorality, impurity, sensuality." Paul begins the first of two lists here. The second one is a list of the good things that God gives us if we walk in the Spirit. The first one, which is the one which begins here in verse 19, is one that lists all of the negative attributes of a life lived in the flesh. Now, the works of the flesh are self-evident. Let's break down the ones listed so far. Sexual immorality. The word here that's translated as sexual immorality in the Greek is porneia. This includes various kinds of sexual sins, and especially prostitution and sex outside of the covenant of marriage. The dictionary of the New Testament gives us some interesting tidbits as well. The main cause of prostitution is the Greek view of life, which regards sexual intercourse as just as natural, necessary, and justifiable as eating and drinking. Only civil marriage was protected by law and custom. Even if the married man was permitted extramarital, even the married man was permitted extramarital intercourse as he pleased, so long as he did not violate a civil marriage. On the other hand, all extramarital intercourse was forbidden to the wife. Towards the practical exercise of free sex relations, the judgment of the Greeks was very tolerant, especially in the case of intercourse between young men. The age of marriage was between 30 and 35, and of harlots. Now, Paul is declaring all of this is out of bounds, as a work of the flesh here. As the Timothy letters reveal, God's way in the new covenant is one man and one woman. So that's what I have for sexual immorality. Impurity, sexual or religious uncleanness, especially pertaining to filth. It's very sort of a gross word. In context here, it's pretty clear that the word carries obviously more of the sexual nature to the word to it. Interestingly, when you see it in conjunction with the word pneumia, the word here can also mean unclean spirit. It's really like, it's gross, it's filthy uncleanliness. Sensuality. This Greek word brings with it the connotation of self-abandonment and a deep lack of self-control. The Dictionary of Biblical Languages with semantic domain mentions that it means to be free from morals and moral behavior. In a very real sense, it means to be like publicly sexually sick. In biblical terms, the word is used to characterize the sexual excess and general lifestyle of Sodom and Gomorrah in 2 Peter 2:7. So it's pretty serious. That's all I have for this verse. Chris?
Well, that's really good on that word study, and I think you can divide that list into about 4 categories. Sensual sins, which those first 4 are pretty much all sensual sins. How do you pronounce it? Lasciviousness? Is that the correct way?
I have, since I'm using the ESV, they did away with lasciviousness. They have sexual immorality, impurity, and sensuality.
Okay. Yeah, sensuality is probably what it was. It has this connotation of just like open sin and flaunting it and proud of it, just in the connotation of more like a sexual type sins, but this sort of just very brash kind of lifestyle, I guess you could say, sort of like Sodom and Gomorrah. So I think it's a great way to put it. But the other categories: sensual sins, religious sins, interpersonal sins, and social sins, or how some have divided this. But the list is Paul, and there's going to be more that we're going to mention here, and I'm not going to comment on every one of these. I think that you've done a good job on hitting these word studies, but I just wanted to kind of frame it a little bit. That Paul's essentially rebuking those that are accusing him of cheap grace, as we've said. He says, "You will know that the Spirit is working in someone in both what you won't see in their lives and what you will see." And he starts this list with the things that you won't see in the life of a person who has been saved by grace. And he includes idolatry, with witchcraft, hatred, variance, emulations, wrath, strife, seditions, heresies, envyings, murders, drunkenness, revelings, and such like. He's sure to put that such like in there that there's more to the list apparently. But I think this is a really interesting list, and so much could be done with this list. You could divide this and do several sermons on it in a lot of different ways, but I'll let you continue in the word study.
Okay.